Libraries house books that go from hand to hand and are read countless times. They also have books that we do not know much about and that wait decades to find their readers. This is the case for over 300,000 non-Bohemian volumes stored in the Czech National Library's reserve funds. In the majority of these cases, we will never find out their precise history. On closer study, and armed with some knowledge of the historical background, we are able, at least, to outline their stories. We know that a small portion of these books were victims of the Second World War, often together with their owners, who were labeled opponents and enemies of the Nazi regime. The confiscated books were later included in the library of the Reichssicherheitshauptamt, the Reich's main security office, used to study the enemies of the Hitler regime. When the Allied bombing of Berlin began, the library was evacuated. Among other places, the books went to 4 castles in the Sudetenland: Hauska, Mimoň, Nový Běrštejn, and Nový Falkenburg. There, they were taken over by the Czechoslovak administration during May and June 1945. Subsequently, they were sorted by the staff of the National and University Library. The books of Reich owners were sent to Prague for further processing, and the books that belonged to Allied owners were sent back to their countries of origin. Other books stored in the reserve funds came to the library due to the Beneš decrees, or as literature discarded by other libraries or donations from private owners and institutions. At present, only their marks of ownership in particular stamps and ex libris etiquettes from private libraries can unveil the secrets of their fate and the life stories of their owners. Thanks to a mark of ownership, for example, it was possible to identify a particular owner of the book Freimaurerei und Politik im Zeitalter der Französischen Revolution, Freemasonry and Politics During the French Revolution, by Adolf Rosberg, published in 1942 by Nordland Verlag, a publishing house that from the 1930s on specialized in propagandist literature. The book was owned by Professor Gregor Schwartz-Bostunitsch, one of the very controversial figures of the first half of the 20th century. The Kiev-born Schwartz-Bostunitsch was a keen occultist, a naturalized German who established himself as a passionate promoter of theories about a Judeo-Masonic Bolshevik conspiracy. The dense, handwritten margin notes in the volume confirm that Schwartz-Bostunitsch read Rosberg's book shortly after it was published, on his way from Regensburg to Marburg in the second half of 1942. Bostunitsch's detailed notes indicate his extensive knowledge of the field and also confirm that he knew Rosberg in person. In several places, Bostunitsch points out that the author learned information that was important for the edition from him. Their personal contacts are also documented by Rosberg's obituary, glued into the book. One of the last surviving mentions of Bostunitsch dates to late 1944, when, thanks to the intercession of Heinrich Himmler, Bostunitsch was promoted to the rank of SS Standartenführer. After that, news of his life disappears in Silesia. Bostunitsch wished his library to go to the NSDAP after his death. However, the evacuation of thousands of books from bombed-out Berlin directed this volume to the former Czechoslovakia and further to the collection of the National Library, where, paradoxically, it has become part of a very interesting collection of documents originating from various Masonic libraries. The project, Books Discovered Once Again, is another of the National Library's activities attempting to fill in the gaps in our knowledge about the composition of the funds and allowing users to learn in detail about the content of books so far unknown. Within the project, tens of thousands of volumes have been documented. Almost 16,000 have been recorded in an electronic catalog and subsequently made accessible to the general community of researchers. However, there remain some 285,000 volumes that still wait for readers and researchers. These are the neglected documents of the history of the 1930s to the 1950s, and they witness the controversial events that took place in those years in our lands. To this day, we've not managed to come to terms with the legacy of those times. In exploring the secrets these 285,000 volumes have to offer, one hopes that they will give us paths of research, inquiry, and enlightenment to help us address the monumental events of the 20th century in Europe.